Hello and welcome everyone to PW Only IS English channel. Today we are going to talk about India's neighborhood yet again. We have already talked about Bangladesh, we have discussed about Myanmar, but nothing is as worrisome as the evolving situation in Pakistan. Talking about the recent railway hijack, the train hijack by Balochistan Liberation Army, this is one off incident. According to Global Terror Index, Pakistan is the second most victimized country when it comes to terror attacks. I would like to start with Atal Bihari Vajpayee sir's statement that you cannot choose your neighbors, you have to live up with them. And this is more starkly applicable to India's immediate neighbor, Pakistan. The country is not just fighting a single insurgent group, but is simultaneously battling four distinct yet increasingly interconnected militant organizations. Let's talk about Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Let's talk about Balochistan Liberation Army. Islamic State Khorasan, the third one, and fourth, most important, the Afghanistan Taliban indirect influence. This Afghan Taliban link is something that Pakistan itself used to nurture against India. But now the devil has come back to haunt itself again. Each of these groups operate with a different objectives, but together they are tearing at the fabric of Pakistan's security, economy, and even sovereignty today. With a 45% increase in the terror-related deaths in Pakistan in 2024, according to Global Terrorism Index, and an alarming rise in attacks across multiple fronts, the situation has escalated into what could be called as the Quad of Terror. Yes, Pakistan is battling the four forces. Pakistan's security forces are facing unprecedented threats on multiple fronts. As I said, Global Terror Index 2025. Earlier we talked about 2024. 2025 presents an even starker picture. It was released earlier this month. It ranked Pakistan as the second most terror-affected country in the world. Yes, a grim ascent from its fourth place position in the previous year, that is 2024. Considering that it is India's neighbor and the hostilities between the countries are age-old ever since independence of both the countries, this is not a good thing for India. Even if we might celebrate a victory or two against Pakistani cricket team, but this victory, this kind of a descent of our neighbor into chaos, into anarchy, is something that is not good, especially when it is a nuclear power. The latest train hijacking incident in Balochistan, a chilling display of insurgent power, has once again brought Pakistan's security vulnerabilities to the forefront. Now the big question is, can Pakistan successfully counter this growing terrorist network, or is it going to succumb to it? Or is it on the brink of deeper instability? This is the question that India's national security advisor need to ask themselves. Operating primarily in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and along the Afghan border, the TTP, the most important insurgent group, it is the Pakistan's most lethal insurgent group. The TTP has benefited from the safe havens in Afghanistan, which have allowed it to regroup and plan large-scale attacks, including the suicide bombings targeting the security forces of Pakistan. The main problem in Pakistan is that the control has never been in the hands of the civilian government. You talk about Nawaz Sharif, you talk about many prime ministers have come and gone. Even Benazir Bhutto, when she was campaigning for the elections, was shot dead. Such is the influence of ISI. Now the terror groups, the snakes nurtured by the Pakistan, are coming back to haunt it again. The BLA has escalated its insurgency, particularly targeting the state infrastructure, militant personnel, and yes, the Chinese investment projects, especially in the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor area. Let's have a look at the map, and this is the Balochistan leader who says that there is not a single inch of Balochistan left where the government can claim complete authority. They have lost this war even completely and irreversibly. It is over. We warned them, he says, we warned them again and again, just as those before us warned them. But instead of listening, they mocked at us. They dismissed our words as empty threats while they fueled a system of oppression, looting and bloodshed, genocide in Balochistan. So that is why they gave effect to this deadly attack, this time on the train network, on the railway network. The train hijacking is only one of the latest in a string of deadly attacks, following a January suicide bombing in Quetta that killed 25 people, including Chinese engineers. You all know that China, wherever the Chinese projects go, Chinese engineers, Chinese companies, Chinese labor follows, because this is a string attached with the Chinese projects. Even though the loans are given by China for building projects, country has to pay them back, but Chinese labor, since it is a populous country like India, Chinese labor has to be employed everywhere Chinese investment goes. That is why these 25 engineers, the 25 people who got killed, around 12 of them were Chinese engineers who were working on the CPEC corridor in the Pakistan occupied area of Kashmir that belongs to India. Now, it is a lesson for China also. Maybe this is the backdoor diplomacy that India is activating. We are just guessing. Now, I am remembered of National Security Advisor Ajit Doval's offensive defense doctrine. He said that long ago in 2015, our National Security Advisor had said that Pakistan has been throwing offenses at us and we have been keeping ourselves busy just defending ourselves. Now it is high time that we start throwing offenses so that Pakistan is busy countering these offenses thrown by India. And that is why it seems like there is an Indian connection. I'm not a government authority or anybody, but yes, what is out there in the media, it is my duty to present that piece of information to you. In fact, it is good also because we have been through diplomatic channels warning China also to not to carry out any of such projects in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. But they never heard us, they listened to us. Now the conscience, now the better sense would prevail, it seems. Now moving further, China's investment in the CPEC corridor, a flagship project of the Belt and Road Initiative. This is one of the reasons India did not join BRI. This investment is estimated at around $62 billion on infrastructure, energy and industrial development, aiming to connect China's western region, the underdeveloped region of China, with Pakistan's Gwadar port, targeting at India's Chabahar port as a strategic asset. Pakistan's Gwadar port, you must be knowing that it is a part of the string of the pearls theory also. Now, moving on to the other entity, Islamic State Khorasan, the third terror group. Here, if you look at this terror group here, China's role in bringing a deal, we'll talk about this also. Islamic State Khorasan has been expanding its footprint in Pakistan, staging a high-profile suicide bombing, including a February 28 attack on Seminary Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that killed 6 people, including prominent cleric also. The group ISK, though ideologically at odds with Taliban, thrives in the chaos created by Pakistan's internal conflict. So ISK is at loggerheads with the Taliban leaders. Now the question is Afghan Taliban a silent enabler? Now Taliban does not need any help from Pakistan. Earlier, when Talibanis were not in power there in Afghanistan, they were seeking hideouts in Pakistan. And Pakistan was happy nurturing them against India. Who doesn't remember about the Kandahar plane hijack? Even though it occurred long back, but it seems as yesterday. So a silent enabler now is going to be a disabler for Pakistan. It is coming back to haunt Pakistan now, the ISI. Though not directly attacking Pakistan, Afghanistan Taliban, the leaders, some of the leaders that you see in pictures here, the Afghanistan Taliban has been accused of providing tacit support to TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Yes, this is captured by UN report from February 2025. It confirms that Taliban continues to offer logistical and financial backing to the TTP. Hosting training centers. You look at these training centers, they are training kids of the age group as low as 15 to 16 years. So this is what is panning out for India as well insofar as this crisis is concerned. I think that picture has been missed out, but you can very well visualize as to what have we seen when it came to Afghanistan's modus operandi, Taliban's modus operandi in Afghanistan, training kids, capturing them, then radicalizing them. The same phenomena is now being replicated by TTP against Pakistan. Training centers in Afghan provinces like Kunar and Nangarhar. This relationship has strained Pakistan's ties with Kabul, with Islamabad demanding action against TTP sanctuaries, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan safe sanctuaries where terrorists are trained against Pakistan this time around. But these requests have largely fallen on deaf ears. Like India's requests were falling on Pakistan, on the US. US was earlier, until this Taliban came to power in Afghanistan, US was providing an aid of $1.2 billion per year to Pakistan. Now that economic angle has also been taken away from ISI, thereby depriving it of its much needed financial resources. Now, moving further here, you have a look at the map. These are the areas where the border line, Durand line, where the terrorists are trained in Kabul in Afghanistan, and then they are sent to Pakistan to wage a war. Pakistan has faced terrorism even before also, but this time it is quite different. The simultaneous resurgence of multiple insurgent factions, each with its own motivations but overlapping operational capacities, makes this an unprecedented crisis. TTP's cross-border safe havens, the Afghan Taliban's reluctance to act against TTP has emboldened the group. Afghanistan is not listening to Pakistan, neither China. China has also been mediating. This was the picture that I inserted to tell you that Chinese foreign minister was in the other previous months. He's been to Pakistan, and they three of them had a photo clicked with the Taliban leader, so as to convince the Taliban that its soil, Talibani soil, Afghanistani soil, should not be allowed to be used for acting against Chinese infrastructure projects, Chinese investments in Pakistan. But again, this is not working to the advantage of Pakistan this time around. Baloch separatism gains momentum. The BLA's focus on targeting military personnel and Chinese investments threatens both the national security and crucial economic projects which are important for the failing economy of Pakistan. And they are equally important for CPEC. India gains an edge over China as well as Pakistan over here. If CPEC is not going to not going to proceed as per the expected lines, then China would have to agree to India insofar as the map related dispute is going on between the two countries. Now coming to ISK's growing urban footprint in the cities like Islamabad of Rawalpindi of Pakistan. While previously contained in Afghanistan, ISK is now targeting Pakistani cities, aiming to destabilize urban centers through sectarian violence and suicide bombings. Remember 26/11. They wanted to target our commercial center, our commercial capital Mumbai, and now same thing is happening to Pakistan. We are not happy about it. We should be concerned about it because they have tactical nuclear weapons, the Pakistani army, and these tactical nuclear weapons of the size of a grenade or not as heavy as India's missile systems, they can be launched against India anytime. So we should also be worried about it. Nonetheless, geopolitical implications, talking about the geopolitical implications of all this, a weakened Pakistan is vulnerable to external manipulation. And here we should remember of Donald Trump with both regional and global consequences. Talk of China. China might try to exploit Pakistani vulnerabilities against India, including the concerns over nuclear security. China is also in the crosshairs here. China, Pakistan's closest ally, strategic ally, is increasingly becoming a target of code of terror. But if China decides to fight against them, India would be at odds. The BLA, Balochistan Liberation Army in particular, has escalated attacks on Chinese nationals and projects under CPEC, seeking them as symbols of Pakistan's exploitation of Balochistan's resources. And that is why people don't want their oil reserves to be exploited for forces that are going to come back to haunt them again, to conduct genocide, to do ethnic cleansing in the same Baloch region whose resources they are going to exploit. Now, between the lines, a crisis of strategy is also visible. Is Pakistan able to deter? Is Pakistan able to form a coherent strategy to fight this multi-pronged challenge this time around? Number one, Pakistan's military-first approach to counterterrorism, to trample upon the protests, while effective in eliminating individual militants, has failed to dismantle entire networks. It has in fact emboldened the orphan children of the ones killed in the battle. The TTP, BLA and ISK remain resilient and are getting the easy recruitment ground from these orphanized children, continuously adapting to counter-insurgency tactics. Second, drone strikes. Pakistan has been using drone strikes and air raids. Well, They are good for the foreign soil, like USA uses them in Syria, Israel, Palestine, and Pakistan. But fighting your own people with drone strikes so as to save a few of military personnel, then killing thousands of people, it is going to again come back to haunt you again. This is what Pakistani army is not understanding. Now, drone strikes and air raids have taken out key militant leaders, but the groups regenerate quickly due to strong recruitment pipelines. Schools, madrasas are being used to radicalize children. Third, diplomatic pressure on Afghanistan through China, through US, has yielded little success, as the Taliban remains indifferent to Pakistan's concerns. Domestic crackdowns. Now remember here, an extortion cycle is also going on. Afghanistan knows that if it will put pressure on China, if it will attack Chinese projects in the POK region, Pakistan occupied region, Afghanistan will get a lot of firoti, a lot of money in lieu of ensuring the safety of Chinese investment projects in Pakistan. China is not ready to negotiate that way, because that will set a bad example and will lead to an illegal kind of an insurance arrangement with the terrorist forces, Taliban. So that is why these domestic crackdowns on terrorism have been sporadic, with no long-term de-radicalization efforts on the part of Pakistan to prevent future recruitment. Now this begs us the question, what's next? The battle for stability in Pakistan. Pakistan's survival against this squad of terror depends on a multi-pronged approach. Point number one of this approach could be diplomatic pressure on Afghanistan. Islamabad, Pakistan must seek international mediation, possibly involving China and the Gulf nations, to push Taliban. You know, Iran has got a very good rapport with the Talibani leaders. Or talk about Qatar, which has been the negotiating ground always for having a negotiation between Afghanistan civilian government, the US, the Russian people, and the Talibanis. So China, the Islamabad could seek help from Gulf countries as well to push the Taliban into dismantling TTP sanctuaries. Second, enhanced counter-terror operations, more intelligence-based strikes, and border security reinforcements to prevent cross-border militant movement. Third, strengthened intelligence sharing. Pakistan must work closely with the regional allies, including India, China, Iran, and even as I said, India, to disrupt the terrorist funding and logistical networks. Well, this is difficult for a country which has for decades now nurtured all these networks. Socio-economic reforms addressing the root causes of insurgency, such as unemployment and political disenfranchisement in the Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region, can undercut militant recruitment. These are the steps that our neighboring country has to take in order to become resilient in itself. All that we want is that it is not a cricket match. It is a matter of security of India. We have talked about push and pull factors. If any crisis occurs in Pakistan, China is going to harp upon that. China is going to exploit that to its advantage so as to extract some diplomatic benefits from India. Recently, China gave us an offer that we together, both these countries can fight US insofar as economic war is going on. Is concerned, the tariff war is concerned. But coming to the territorial dispute, China has never budged. China has never understood the logic. Despite being the territorial neighbors, we have had issues with regard to rivers, we have had issues with regard to Pakistan, CPEC, and what else? The Dokala Plateau crisis of 2017. Military clashes, killing our soldiers, killing their soldiers. But wisdom has not fallen upon Chinese ever. So this is the time that we need to save another terror state, rogue state from going bad to worse. Already we are facing the crisis in Myanmar, in Bangladesh. This is the most challenging time for India's foreign affairs minister, I would say, even as he is busy negotiating the trade deal in the European countries. This was all in this video. I hope you liked it. Please let us know in the comment section about the feedback. How would you like to improve it? Would you like to add something else to it so that you can gain insofar as your UPSC preparation is concerned and general awareness about the international affairs is concerned. With this, I take your leave. Jai Hind, guys.